Welcome to the Rewriting Naruto series part 34. This is a series of videos where I rewrite the Naruto series to improve the story from a personal taste. The goal for this video is going to be 4,000 likes in the first 24 hours. If we reach that, the next rewrite is going to come out in a week. Hinata lay chained in the bowels of the Leaf Village's prison facility. She couldn't see anything or move a muscle. The Anbu sealing squad had nullified her chakra completely. She came close to crying, but as usual, she couldn't. Naruto had infiltrated this prison just to talk to her. It really was him. He cared for her. Of course, the Anbu knew about the infiltration and simply used Naruto to try and extract more information from her. But that didn't change the fact that Naruto risked a lot just to see her. He was different. He was the best the village, no, the best the world had to offer. That was why she had to protect him. Hinata knew she made him very upset. She knew Naruto wouldn't agree with what she was doing, but that did not matter so long as he was safe. Her conviction did not waver. Hearing Naruto's voice again brought an utter sense of warmth and nostalgia for a time that would never return. Knowing he was alive gave Hinata a sense of accomplishment. Naruto would have been dead if not for her. The strange beast of chakra they encountered in the Uzumaki lands would have destroyed him, even if he didn't acknowledge it. That reminded her why she did everything she did. She remembered that fateful day, the day her life changed forever, the day she finally chose to protect Naruto, the day she joined the Root Anbu. 2 years and 8 months ago. Hinata laid on her sleeping mat, dreading the day in front of her. She didn't want to leave bed. Every day, the fact that she had to wake up almost made her cry, but she never did. For some reason, she had been unable to cry ever since her mother's death. Even though she desperately wanted to, the tears simply wouldn't come. It had been over 3 months since Hinata's mom died in front of her. Not a single day went by without Hinata thinking about it. She was haunted by the fact that she couldn't save her mom due to her cowardice. What type of ninja would just stand still, watching her own mother die in front of her eyes? Hinata was no shinobi. She never wanted to be one in the first place. She preferred more gentle things that didn't involve violence. However, as the heiress of the Hyuga clan, she had no alternative. Her destiny had been settled for her ever since she was born. So even though she had no talent for it, even though she detested it, she had to be a ninja. Her grief, longing, confusion, and anger had prevented Hinata from performing well on her missions lately. Yes, in the past 3 months, Hinata realized she had been feeling so much anger at everything. Her father, her clan, and especially herself. An emotion that she thought once incapable of feeling. Thinking about Naruto was the only solace she had. Hinata wished she could see Naruto again, speak to him, even if only for a minute. He had left the village before her mom died and would take years to return according to what she heard. Hinata finally managed to get up and started to prepare herself for another torturous day. This one would be even worse than normal. Hinata was in the final round of the Chunin Exams. She didn't deserve to be there. Shino had carried her team all the way through the finals, passing the first and second stages of the exam practically by himself. And yet, because she was the heiress of the Hyuga clan, prospective clients from all around the Land of Fire and beyond would be in the arena watching her. Being the center of attention with thousands of people seeing everything she does was literally the last thing Hinata ever wanted. She preferred to be invisible. Hinata walked down the Hyuga clan complex, getting ready to head to the arena. She didn't eat breakfast. She didn't even feel hungry. Hanabi saw Hinata and ran towards her, embracing Hinata in a firm hug. "Good luck, Hinata. I'll be cheering for you." Her younger sister had no clue of what happened to their mother the night she died, and Hinata was glad that was the case. She didn't have to carry that burden on her consciousness. "Thank you, Hana. I'll do my best," Hinata said, not trusting her own words. She then pulled a piece of paper out of her ninja bag. It listed the brackets of the final round of the Chunin Exams. 8 ninjas had advanced. Surprisingly, they were all from the Leaf Village. The brackets started with 4 quarterfinal matches. Hinata versus Rock Lee, Sakura versus Kiba, Choji versus Shino, and Neji versus Tenten, in that order. The worst thing was that Hinata was going to be the very first fight. She just wanted this day to end. As she was about to leave, Hiyashi Hyuga, Hinata's father, intercepted her. "Do not embarrass me or the Hyuga clan today. If emissaries perceive the Hyuga clan as weak, the entire clan will be affected. You're a pathetic shinobi. Hide it well today. Because if you lose to that clanless, talentless brat, you know what will happen to you," Hiyashi said with no emotion in his voice. She shivered. Hinata could already feel the pain. Her father had been beating her almost every day ever since her mother died. Their beatings were especially bad when Hinata failed on a mission, and they have been getting progressively worse. Hiyashi told Hinata he beat her because he wanted to instill strength on her. She had been very bad during her training, unable to develop any of the Hyuga techniques of the gentle fist. Even sparring with talented shinobi like Neji didn't help at all. So Hiyashi Hiyashi said he would drill strength into her by force. She couldn't fathom what her father would do to her if she lost to Rock Lee. Even though she knew Rock Lee was clearly stronger than her, Hiyashi believed him to be a subpar shinobi. And if someone with such a lack of prestige beat the Hyuga clan, in his eyes, the clan's own honor would be ripped to shreds. If that happened, she didn't put it past her father killing her so that he could implant the Hyuga inheritance on Hanabi. The Hyuga inheritance was a sealing jutsu that only one Hyuga could have at any given moment. That Hyuga was destined to become the leader of the clan, because once the acting leader died, the sealing jutsu would unravel, passing on the secrets and the abilities only the head of the clan would possess. Hiyashi had implanted the inheritance on Hinata minutes after she was born. Hiyashi regretted doing that. For him, Hinata was worthless, as a shinobi and a human being that didn't deserve to be the leader of the clan. He wished he had waited to implant it on Hanabi, who proved to be a far more suited person for shinobi life, and the life of a prominent Hyuga clan member. Because her father couldn't implant the inheritance on two people at the same time, the only way for him to get his wish would be if Hinata died. It couldn't be removed from her any other way. But if she died, Hiyashi would be free to choose a new vessel for the inheritance that would maintain the honor of the Hyuga clan intact. Even though Hinata didn't like her chances, she had to somehow at least win her first match for her own safety. As Hinata made her way towards the arena, she noticed that the streets of the Leaf Village were busier than usual. People from all around the Land of Fire and beyond talked in excitement about the upcoming finals. Apparently, the disastrous end to the last Chunin Exams held in the Leaf Village didn't dissuade people from attending this new edition. Although, to be fair, most of these spectators slept through the incident, so it probably didn't traumatize them. Heard there's gonna be two Hyuga kids this time. One of them is the heir. A dignified lord with a plump frame told his companion. They're definitely the favorites for this thing then, the other said. I don't know. I like the Akimichi boy. It's just because you're fat too, shut up. Hinata tried to ignore them, cutting off her senses so as not to deal with her anxiety. Those people are all going to be watching and judging her, and Hinata was not looking forward to it. As she neared the arena, she felt someone tugging at her sleeve. Hinata turned around and saw a small girl, no older than 7. She was crying. Miss, are you a ninja? She said, trying to contain her tears. Hinata nodded. Gallant is stuck. Can you help him down? Gallant? Who's that? Hinata said, kneeling down next to her. The girl pointed at the top of a light pole close to where they were. Hinata saw a small black cat stuck up there, too afraid to go down. It wasn't uncommon for inexperienced cats to climb too high, finding themselves too high to go down. Hinata forced herself to smile at the girl. I'll get him for you. She jumped at the pole, imbuing her feet with chakra, walking vertically towards the cat. When Hinata reached the animal, she was apprehensive, afraid it would lash out against her, but the dark creature was too terrified. It couldn't even move, and it was filled with scars around its body. Strange for such a young cat to have already suffered so much. The cat looked at her, eyes quivering. Don't worry, you'll be alright now, Hinata told the cat, picking it up. From the corner of her eye, Hinata saw something odd in the distance. The height of the pole gave her an extensive field of view, even without her Byakugan activated. She saw 3 hooded figures gathering in a narrow and well-hidden alleyway. Looking around, Hinata realized that her exact position was the only possible vantage point from where they could be spotted. Hinata activated her Byakugan. What she saw sent a wave of adrenaline through her body. One of the hooded figures was showing the other a book which depicted Naruto. Hinata jumped down holding the cat and returned it to the girl. She dashed away before the girl had time to thank her. Hinata ran towards those men. What do they want with Naruto? They looked so suspicious, so shady. It couldn't be anything good. Over the last few months, Hinata discovered she actually had the ability to erase her presence almost perfectly. That appeared to be one of her only talents. Not that it was enough to make her father happy. Still, that ability would be useful now. Hinata concentrated, nullifying her chakra. She jumped up, landing on a rooftop like an owl without making a sound. Hinata crouched and peeked over the edge onto the alleyway. The 3 men stood several meters below her. 2 of them wore masks. They looked somewhat like Anbu masks, but they had far more monstrous features. The 3rd man wore no mask. He was older. A sling sustained his right arm, and his right eye was covered by bandages. He read the book the other men had given him, staring at the page which depicted a picture of Naruto with a large block of text. The older man scowled. If this is the extent of his abilities, I worry about the safety of Naruto Uzumaki, he said. He's probably somewhere around Chunin level, but that's not gonna be enough when the Akatsuki is involved, one of the other men said. Indeed, even with the great Jiraiya training him, I am afraid he won't progress fast enough to protect himself when the time comes. That's not even the worst part, Lord Danzo. We've got troubling reports. A few days ago, ago, Kisame Hoshigaki, an S-class rogue ninja listed in the bingo book with a bounty of 160 million ryo, located Naruto Uzumaki and Jiraiya. He engaged them in combat, coming very close to killing Jiraiya and capturing Naruto. Jiraiya was able to escape with the narrowest of margins using a reverse summoning jutsu, according to reports.
Was it Kisame alone who attacked them? When he infiltrated the village, Itachi was with him.
Hinata knew that name. Everybody did. That was Sasuke's brother, who had single-handedly slaughtered the entire Uchiha clan. Apparently, Kisame was by himself. He did it alone. Danzo clenched his fist, crunching the pages of the book he held.
We know practically nothing about the Akatsuki. If they had engaged Jiraiya together, Naruto would have been in their hands now. We have to operate assuming every Akatsuki member is as strong, if not stronger than Itachi.
Hinata's mouth hanged open. People like that were after Naruto. She felt like crying in desperation, but as usual, no tears came. Hinata didn't know what she would do if Naruto died. He was everything. Thinking about him was the only thing that kept her going these days. So how can we fight something like that, Lord Danzo? It's said that they have at least 10 members in their ranks. If they all decided to, they could easily invade and destroy the village and capture the Jinchuriki. There's nothing we could do about 10 Itachis.
We have to strengthen our own shinobi. The Root Anbu will continue to serve from the shadows and protect the village. And Naruto Uzumaki, first and foremost, no matter the cost.
Should we send a squadron to look after him? Danzo sighed in annoyance.
Unfortunately, we can't. I've already suggested that to Tsunade and she rejected the idea, saying Jiraiya was more than enough to protect the boy. Even if we sent a covert squadron without informing anyone, Jiraiya would eventually notice them. He's a skilled shinobi.
Perhaps this latest attack will change their mind.
It won't. Tsunade is as stubborn, naive, and delusioned as her former master. We cannot expect her to do what's best for her people, and most of all, what's best to protect Naruto Uzumaki. Sending him away for so long, with only one shinobi protecting him, is one of the most idiotic decisions I've ever seen. Most of all now with the Akatsuki getting bolder. So we'll have to work around Tsunade's lunacy. We have to get ourselves to a position in which we'll be able to protect the Jinchuriki when the time comes. We'll triple our efforts, forge the strongest shinobi in the world. That's the only way to save this village.
Hinata shivered. Naruto seemed to be destined to suffer. Not only was he cursed with the foulest demon in this world, but now the most dangerous ninjas of the age were hunting him down, and Hinata couldn't do anything about it. She was much weaker than Naruto himself. She would only get in the way. Hinata felt cold and hot at the same time. A trickle of sweat ran down her cheek, and before she realized, it fell down the alleyway below. As soon as he did, all three men twisted their heads, looking at where the drop had fallen near them. Hinata hid, pulling back from the edge. Did you see that? One of the men said. Weird. There were no clouds in the sky today. The other masked man said.
Regardless, pass my message along to the others. We must prepare. I'll head to the arena. See if there's anyone talented enough that we could maybe enlist.
Danzo said. Hinata heard the three ninjas scattering. That was close. Once again, her incompetence as a shinobi almost ruined everything. She couldn't contain her emotions thinking about Naruto. She was sweating and felt feverish. Her hands were shaking so much she wouldn't be able to hold a kunai in that state. Hinata needed to calm down. She would be fighting in the first bout of the tournament. Memories of Naruto yelling and cheering for her in the last Chunin Exams managed to calm her nerves. That had been the best day of her life. The day Naruto acknowledged her. Could Hinata preserve his life? Could she do anything about the threats those three men were talking about? If she could improve Naruto's chance by 0.1%, even if she had to sacrifice her own life to do so, she would gladly do it. But in order for her to give her life to Naruto, she would still need to be alive. For that, she needed to somehow win her first fight at least. That way her father may spare her. Out of the 8 genin, Hinata was the last one to arrive in the arena. They were all in an antechamber, waiting to be called for the initial ceremony of the tournament. Rock Lee, Tenten, Neji, and Kiba looked excited, eager to fight. Sakura and Choji looked apprehensive. Choji was eating 3 bags of chips per minute, trying to calm his nerves. Shino looked utterly unfazed. He carried 3 large gourds, 2 on his back and 1 on his side. Hinata had never seen him with those things, but she knew he definitely had something planned for his fight. Lady Hinata, I looked for you before I left home, Neji said. Hinata and her cousin lived in the same complex of the Hyuga clan. Sorry, I decided to leave before you. Oh, I just got worried you're not gonna make it. it. Did something happen on the way? Hinata hesitated, remembering what she just found out about Naruto.
No, nothing, Neji,
she said, forcing a smile. Well, Hinata, it's time for us to show what Team 8 is made of, Kiba said, grinning. Hinata nodded without saying anything. The crowd was already making noise, anticipating the arrival of the candidates to the center of the arena. Hinata's legs got weak, and she felt her guts twisting. Suddenly, the reality of having to fight in front of a large crowd had become palpable. Hinata wished she was invisible. Come on, Hinata, show a bit of excitement. You too, Shino, Kiba said, annoyed at his teammates that didn't share his enthusiasm. Kiba, just try not to embarrass yourself. Last time you were in one of those, you lost to a literal fart, Shino said matter-of-factly. Shut up, don't remind me of that. Sakura approached Hinata. Are you nervous, Hinata? Is everything okay? She said with a kind smile. Hinata froze. She was afraid that if she admitted she was nervous, she would become even more nervous. Sakura touched her hand. I'm nervous too, but it will be alright. Hinata looked at her. Indeed, Sakura looked as if she'd just seen a ghost. Oddly, this made Hinata feel better. She had someone to relate to. For the first time in a long time, Hinata gave a genuine smile. Sakura, Sakura! Rock Lee said, approaching her. If I win this tournament, will you go out with me? Haley, Sakura said, embarrassed, not knowing how to answer. It doesn't have to be anything romantic. It's just that fighting for something so noble as a chance to having a date with you will fuel my motivation to beat Neji even further. Beat Neji? Well, yeah, if I advance to the final, I'll fight him. I mean, I don't want to discredit anyone else, but Neji's definitely gonna go to the final, and I'm thinking I'm the only one with any chances of beating him. Naruto beat Neji in the last Chunin Exams, Hinata said. She immediately looked down, blushing, noticing she butted in the conversation without being invited. Why did she feel so compelled to say that? I know! Naruto's too impressive! By the way, I'm sure that whoever wins our match is gonna go to the final, so let's do our best, Lee said, doing the nice guy pose to Hinata. But what do you say, Sakura? It's only if I win. No pressure, and you can even choose where we go. I'm fine with anything, really. Alright, Sakura said, catching all the Genins off guard. Most of all, Lee, who was ready for another rejection. Really? Really? Oh, yes! But only if you win. I'm sorry, Lee, but I'll have to ruin your date, Neji said, smiling. Hey, I'm gonna win this thing, not you guys, Kiba said as Akamaru barked next to him. The dog was twice as big as he was during the last Chunin Exams. I don't want to be blunt, but if there's someone that's not going to win this thing, it's you, Kiba, Shino said. Hey, you don't believe your own teammates? What the hell? You're heartless, Shino. Genma, the proctor of the finals, opened the door to the antechamber. It's time. Let's get going. A few minutes later, the 8 Genin and Genma stood in the middle of the Chunin Exams arena. The crowd cheered as Tsunade, who sat at the Hokage box, stood up. Welcome all to the Leaf Village and the Chunin Exams. Today, let us enjoy the determination and guts of our young talent. The crowd cheered, and Tsunade sat back down. She was a straightforward leader and knew that people were here to watch a tournament, not hear a boring speech. Genma looked at all the Genin. The rules are simple. You'll have to fight each other using any methods you wish until your opponent dies, is incapacitated, or surrenders. I'll stop the fight if I decide that one of the combatants cannot continue. Any questions? None of the 8 Genin had any. Very well then. Hinata, Hyuga, Rock Lee, you're up first. The rest of you can go up to the contestants' balcony to watch. Hinata's stomach felt as if a kunai had pierced it. The nervousness returned at full force. When all the other Genins except for Lee left the arena ground, she realized there was no looking back. She would give anything to postpone this fight, or to travel forward in time so that she wouldn't have to live through this particular moment. The crowd roared, eager to see what the heiress of the Hyuga clan could offer. Kurenai, Asuma, Kakashi, and my guy sat next to each other amidst a large crowd in the arena stands. Let's go, Lee! Guy shouted with his charismatic enthusiasm. The last Chunin Exams were rough on the boy, but both him and Guy radiated in excitement. Let's do this thing! Guy kept on shouting, making the nice guy sign at Lee. You know he cannot hear you from up here in the middle of all this shouting, right? Kurenai said. It doesn't matter, Kurenai. I'm sending Lee my support. Even if he cannot hear me, he will feel it. I don't think that's how it works, she said, a little annoyed with his loud voice. But that wasn't the main reason for Kurenai's apprehension. Hinata was about to fight. She knew how much pressure her father put on the girl and how much she hated being the center of attention. This will be a great fight. I know it, Guy said, looking at Kurenai, smiling. But I'm sorry to say that Lee and Neji will be fighting in the final. Your students are powerful, but mine are more experienced and they trained harder. You're too overconfident assuming your students are the only ones who trained hard, Kurenai said. I mean, let's be real, Kurenai. Guy's right. Lee and Neji will definitely reach the final. They're just stronger than the others. I just hope Choji wins his first fight at least. That would improve his confidence a bit. Asuma said, "You know, Kurenai, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but we prepared specifically for this tournament. Lee has a deep desire to fight Neji. They're rivals. And as their sensei, I did everything I could so that it could happen. It's a shame Naruto isn't here because Neji would want a rematch with him so badly. Even still, I'm pretty sure Naruto got kinda lucky last time, right, Kakashi?" "I'm sorry, did you say anything?" Kakashi said, looking at Guy as if he didn't listen to anything at all. "What? How can you be so heartless, Kakashi?" Rock Lee felt a thrill as the crowd roared. He looked at Hinata after the other Genin vacated the arena grounds. She looked terrified. "Don't worry, Hinata. You'll do great. This will be an amazing fight," Lee said, showing her the nice guy sign. Lee had to cheer her up. He didn't want to beat someone not at their best. Besides, she was a comrade of the Leaf Village. They were opponents, but not enemies. Hinata was confused for a second. Her opponent was cheer her on. Rock Lee was a nice guy and all. In a way, he kinda reminded her of Naruto. Naruto, she remembered. He was in danger, and there was nothing Hinata could do about it. She had to become stronger for him, but how? It was impossible. Hinata had been stuck at the same level for months, but if she wanted to help Naruto in any way, she had to start somewhere. Winning this fight to make sure her father wouldn't murder her would be a start. Hinata took a deep breath and activated her Byakugan. Genma raised his hand, nodding at Hinata, and then at Rock Lee. They nodded back. "Start," he said, bringing his hand down. The crowd exploded in excitement as Hinata and Rock Lee dashed towards each other. They clashed. Hinata unleashed a flourish of gentle fist attacks, prompting Lee to raise his guard and block them. His arms became a blur as he slapped Hinata's fists, deflecting her strikes. He knew how to fight a gentle fist user. You couldn't make contact with her fingers or palms, or they would sever your chakra network. So by pairing Hinata against her wrists, Lee managed to negate her abilities entirely. But Hinata pressed on, increasing the speed of her strikes, but she couldn't get past Rock Lee's guard. He clearly had practiced fighting against the gentle fist. After all, he'd been in the same team as Neji for years. Hinata grew reckless, trying everything she could to hit Lee. Sweat began to inundate her entire face, getting into her eyes, stinging her. She tried to position herself at a better spot to attack Rock Lee from the sides. He just had hands. Nothing seemed to work. Hinata felt the wind getting knocked out of her, and a powerful impact her stomach. She flew back 10 meters, pushed by the force of the blow, and fell into the ground. She couldn't even gasp for air as the audience cheered. Rock Lee landed a kick. Hinata overextended one of her strikes and let herself open. She didn't even see the kick coming her way. It was too fast. Rock Lee didn't chase after her. He only assumed his familiar fighting stance and waited for her to get up. Hinata had used everything she had against Rock Lee. That was the extent of her abilities. She failed to master the trigrams, the rotation, or the air palm. The only thing she had was taijutsu, and Lee had effortlessly blocked all of her attempts, completely outclassing her. There was nothing she could do here. She started to shake. Her powerlessness overwhelmed her. If she wasn't strong enough to land a single blow on Lee, again, what chance would she have to protect Naruto from the strongest rogue ninjas in the world? She felt the urge to cry, but the tears, as usual, didn't come out. Rock Lee looked at Hinata. He didn't want to chase after her while she had fallen. Beating up a comrade of the Leaf Village while she was knocked down seemed like a dirty tactic to him. Besides, a fair and direct taijutsu confrontation would be better for him. Fighting against her was great practice for his eventual final fight against Neji. He just had to make sure to win the fights leading up to the final without using up the gates, or he wouldn't be fit enough to fight Neji properly. But it was just weird. Hinata looked off. She seemed frightened. Not of Lee, but of something else. "Come on, Lady Hinata, you can do it!" Neji screamed from above, but Hinata couldn't. What was the point? Even if she gave her all, there wasn't a world in which she would win this fight. Just like there wasn't a world where she would be able to beat Neji in the previous Chunin Exams, or a world where she could have saved her mother. When she fought Neji, Naruto cheered Hinata up. She gained the courage to fight back, but at what cost? She would have never beaten him anyway. Naruto's words of motivation felt nice and warm to Hinata's heart back in the day, but now, when Naruto's life is in such danger, motivation alone wouldn't save him. Hinata wouldn't save him, just like she wouldn't win this fight. Indeed, it was pointless. Hinata raised her hand. "I forfeit," she said, her words completely hollow. Rock Lee looked shocked, and the entire crowd booed her. Hinata was used to being a disappointment, but she was surprised she didn't feel anything about the booing. Suddenly, she didn't care about how anyone saw her. The only person she cared about was Naruto, and he was about to die. Hinata cringed at the thought of Naruto watching this fight. He He would have hated to see Hinata giving up, but not giving up only makes sense when there's a chance of winning, and Hinata has never won anything her entire life. Hinata, why? Lee asked, his expression concerned. I'm sorry, I just can't. The winner is Rock Lee, Genma said. You're a fraud! Disgraceful ninja! You're trash! The crowd cursed at her. No doubt, many of those people had bet on her to win this fight. Being the heiress of the Hyuga clan had the perks of being someone people put their faith on, but Hinata was not the right person for that. Kurenai looked down at the arena, her guts twisting. You didn't have to do that. Sorry, Hinata. You should have done more, Kurenai said to nobody in particular. Asuma touched her shoulder. I'm sure you'll figure it out. You know, sometimes this just happens. Guy seems embarrassed at the comments he made before. Hinata clearly wasn't in a good mental state to fight in a grand tournament like this. There's something about her eyes. A darkness, Kakashi said. Her demeanor's different. She's always been an introvert, but I feel something happened. Something's consuming her soul. She's been like that ever since Naruto left the village, Kurenai said. No, it's not just that. There's something else. What makes you say that? Experience. Hinata left the arena grounds and went up the stairs that led to the spectator area. She didn't want to see her fellow Genin, so she went another direction, walking through a deserted hallway in the bowels of the arena. The crowd was still booing her, absolutely disappointed, as if she owed them anything, as if they knew what she was going through. She felt an unexpected eruption of anger coursing through her veins. Hot rage. Congratulations. You exceeded all of my expectations, a cold voice said, coming from behind her. A familiar, terrifying voice. Her anger evaporated. The hotness was replaced by the frigid embrace of fear. She looked back and saw her father. His Byakugan was activated, and she had never seen him like that. Not even the day her mother died. His expression was pure hatred. His Byakugan eyes were bloodshot, and even without her Byakugan, she could see wisps of chakra flaring around him. In her apathy, Hinata didn't even consider that forfeiting to a clanless ninja was even more humiliating than losing it normally. This was the last thing you did. You mutilated the honor of the Hyuga clan beyond recognition, and for that, you will pay the ultimate price, he said, weaving hand signs. His right hand began glowing with violet chakra, and quite frankly, I should have done this long ago. You should be thankful I will make it painless. Hinata closed her eyes and surrendered. She didn't want to look and was too terrified to do anything. Even if she weren't, she would never be strong enough to fend off her father. She wanted Naruto to be the last thing she saw before she died, and even now, when she was about to die, Hinata was unable to shed a tear. She heard her father dashing towards her with a grunt of anger. That was it. She hoped Naruto would remember her. A sharp noise echoed through the hallway. What? Her father said in surprise. Hinata dared to open her eyes and saw the old man from the alleyway holding Hiyashi's arm with his only free arm, Danzo. That was his name. His face was wrinkled, but the way he held her father just a few centimeters before he hit her felt so casual, as if he wasn't even trying. I cannot allow you to do that, Hiyashi, Danzo said, staring at him with a neutral expression. Let go of me, Danzo. This is between me and my daughter, Hiyashi said, struggling, his arm shaking under Danzo's grasp. Not when you're about to murder an innocent child in cold blood. Hiyashi's body became enveloped with chakra, which coalesced around his left hand, the free one. He weaved it towards Danzo's face, palm open, chakra overflowing from it. Danzo moved his head to the left, using only his neck motion a split second before Hiyashi made contact and spun, landing a kick on Hiyashi's chest. The speed of the kick caught Hiyashi and Hinata off guard. Hinata heard several of her father's ribs snapping, and he gushed out blood from his mouth. The power of the kick flung him against the hallway sidewall. Hiyashi impacted it at an angle and was deflected to the other side of the hallway, hitting it at another angle again and being thrown to the other side again and again. He zigzagged and crashed against the walls until the end of the hallway, leaving half a dozen cracked spots on each side of the wall. A sudden gust of wind blew Hinata's hair. It seemed to come from the direction her father was tossed. Strange. The hallway had no windows. Her father attempted to stand up as he landed, but he failed to do so, spitting blood. This old man had defeated her father, the leader of the Hyuga clan, with one move. Danzo stepped in front of her, standing between Hinata and Hiyashi. He faced her father. How did I not see you
coming, bastard!
Hiashi said, flaring his Byakugan but wincing in pain. He was on all fours.
You severely overestimate the capabilities of your eyes. I won't let you mock me, Danzo. That was but an observation, not mockery. If anyone soiled the honor of the Hyuga clan today, that would be you. Being humbled by an old man such as myself.
Hiashi focused his chakra on his legs, forcing himself to stand up.
Go away, Hiashi. You're not that type of ninja.
To Hinata's astonishment, her father looked down and limped away, saying nothing else. Danzo turned towards her.
Don't worry, you'll be alright.
He didn't smile, but his face seemed a shade friendlier. Thank you.
You should report that incident to the Hokage. If you'd like, I could accompany you as a witness.
Hinata didn't know what to say. Reporting her father or not would make no difference. He will always want to kill her. Would she get Hiashi arrested for that? Perhaps, but if that happened, technically Hinata would become the de facto leader of the Hyuga clan. The last thing she ever wanted. She'd take the risk of her father attacking her again. And now, he would probably think twice about doing that after what just happened.
No, thank you, sir. It's alright. It's such a shame he cannot comprehend your potential.
What? My potential? But I don't have any.
I see. You don't understand it either.
I don't know what you mean.
Come with me. I'll show it to you.
Hinata hesitated. The man had an intimidating aura to him, but he'd been one of the few people who said she had any potential and quite literally just saved her life. Besides, Hinata had to find out more about Naruto's situation, so she followed him. He introduced himself as Danzo Shimura, an elder of the Leaf Village, and took Hinata to a closed high box in the Chunin Exams arena. The room had 4 cloaked Anbu members. Their masks had more monstrous features than she was used to. Danzo waved them all out and took a seat, overlooking the arena below, gesturing for Hinata to sit next to him. She did so and looked at the arena as well. Kiba and Sakura were already down there, waiting for their match to begin.
Who do you think will win?
Danzo asked. I think Kiba.
And why is that?
He's in my squad. I have to root for him, even though Sakura is a nice person.
I didn't ask who you're rooting for. I asked for who you think will win.
Kiba is strong too. I think he can win. He's been training a lot.
We shall see,
Danzo said, looking down below. His face was unreadable. Sakura was nervous. That was the first time she would fight in front of so many people. She couldn't disappoint Lady Tsunade after so much training. She slapped her own face, trying to pump herself up. She would use her own nervousness and convert that into eagerness to fight. She had studied Kiba a lot in preparation for the fight, and the plan she had was solid. Now, it was only a matter of execution. Genma raised his hand and started the fight. Akamaru transformed into Kiba, and they both assumed an offensive stance. Fang over fang! They lunged forward, their bodies spun with violence towards Sakura. She readied herself and stepped to the side. Akamaru missed, crashing against the ground. Sakura jumped up as Kiba passed below her. Landing, Sakura weaved hand signs, but Kiba and Akamaru turned around, restarting their fang over fang and closing down on Sakura. They chose a different pattern of attack now, each of them coming from the side to strike Sakura at the same time and crush her. Before they got to her, Sakura finished her seals. Genjutsu! Drowning paralysis! One of the swirling masses lost its momentum and fell limp to the ground. It was Akamaru whose transformation reverted back to his normal dog form, but Kiba was still coming. She wouldn't be able to put 2 targets under a Genjutsu at the same time, so Sakura infused her hand with chakra. As Kiba was about to strike her, Sakura threw her fist, clashing it against the fang over fang with a shockwave that rippled through the arena, making Genma's hair flap in the wind. Her fist remained connected against Kiba, whose rotation speed was insane, drawing blood from Sakura's knuckles. It pushed her back, her feet dragging. The muscles of her arms started to waver, but that was all according to plan. Sakura directed all of her chakra to her fist, which erupted with energy, and with a violent burst of power, her strike blew through Kiba's jutsu, launching him away with great speed. Kiba crashed on the other side of the arena, cracking the wall. He stood up, spitting blood and looking shocked. That was an impossibility. Sakura overpowered his fang over fang taijutsu with her taijutsu alone. She dashed towards Kiba, drawing something out of her ninja bag. As she got close close to him, she threw a punch, and Kiba jumped out of the way. Sakura hit the wall behind him, cracking it further. Only now Kiba realized Akamaru was unconscious, far away from him. Was that a genjutsu? When did she learn that? Kiba thought, running towards Akamaru to snap him out of it, but Sakura gave chase, and Kiba was still dizzy because of her initial blow. He was fast enough to get his dog, but Sakura engaged him again in close quarters. Kiba breathed deep and concentrated his chakra at the tip of his fingers. His nails grew into large, evil-looking claws. Beast mimetism! Wolf's posture! He slashed at Sakura, who ducked down, throwing a kick to his legs. Kiba jumped up, doing a front flip and avoiding the attack. He dove against Sakura, slashing again. Sakura tried to get out of the way, but he managed to slash her left shoulder, drawing blood. Sakura used that chance to grab Kiba's arm that just struck her, holding him in place. As he landed, Sakura threw the object she had gotten for her ninja bag into the ground. It exploded into green smoke. When Kiba breathed in, his nose was assaulted by the most repugnant odor he had ever smelled. Sakura saw Kiba's eyes watering, and his expression was of desperation. If he was defeated by Naruto's farts, Sakura's specially concocted stink bomb would be even worse. She held her breath and pressed against Kiba, unleashing a taijutsu barrage. Kiba scrambled to defend, still dazed from the stench. "I've been training to resist those smells ever since he farted on my face!" he screamed as Sakura pummeled his side, cracking ribs and landing a kick to his face. His vision began to turn dark, but Kiba resisted the urge to fall unconscious as he fell to the ground. He grabbed a small pebble and tossed it, not at Sakura, but at Akamaru. "I'm sorry, buddy, but I have to hurt you a little bit," he thought, as the rock hit Akamaru, making the dog yelp in pain, but knocked him out of the genjutsu. Sakura jumped down on Kiba, aiming a powerful kick. He jumped away, managing to raise his left arm to block the second strike, but her kick shattered the arm. Kiba blurted an involuntary cry of pain and fell back to the ground. Sakura prepared another punch, ready to finish him off. The crowd cheered in excitement, but as she was about to strike, Akamaru appeared from behind Sakura, ready to bite her neck. Sakura ducked, but Akamaru grabbed her hair and used it to swing himself straight towards Sakura's face. As she redirected her punch towards the dog, a hot blast of liquid hit her face. It splashed against her eyes and invaded her mouth and nose. Sakura screamed in pain. She felt as if she just got hit by acid and even swallowed it. She couldn't open her eyes. It was too much pain. The crowd exploded into laughter as they realized a dog had just peed on Sakura's face. She heard the glee coming from the stands, and the agonizing pain paralyzed her. Sakura motioned to heal her eyes using her newly trained healing ninjutsu, but she couldn't even concentrate properly. Kiba seized that opportunity and stood up, swinging his arm towards Sakura, claws still gleaming. Genma grabbed his arm and stopped his motion completely, appearing out of nowhere. "That's it. Sakura Haruno is unable to continue. The winner is Kiba Inuzuka," Genma said, as Sakura screamed in pain. The crowd screamed even louder, mocking Sakura's inability to be a ninja, laughing at how the fight had ended. Realizing she had lost, and hearing the entire stadium mocking her, Sakura knelt and cried silently as she tried to heal her eyes and face. The first semi-final was decided. Rock Lee versus Kiba. Tsunade looked at Sakura from above. She was sad seeing her pupil that way, but there was a hint of smile in her lips. "That will be terrible for her confidence, but she did well. I'll just have to make sure this trauma will make her more resilient rather than fragile," Tsunade thought. Asuma looked down with a grimace. "Oh man, I'm pretty sure she swallowed some of that pee. That's gotta suck." "Akamaru can be very nasty," Kurenai said. "Well, not everything is a loss though. If this fight was fought 6 months ago, Sakura would have lost in a few seconds. Today, she almost won. I guess training under the Hokage will bring results," Kakashi said. Guy looked at him, ready to make a joke about how every single one of his students ditched him for another master one way or another, but he said nothing. The entire Sasuke incident was still pretty fresh, and he didn't want to make his friend feel even more guilty. "I bet that's because of your training, Kakashi. You made sure she had a good foundation," Guy said, making the nice guy gesture at Kakashi. "Hardly. I failed all my students." "It appears you were right about the winner," Danzo told Hinata, "but not for the right reasons." "What do you mean?" "You said your squad mate would win simply because he was your squad mate. That is very poor justification. It had nothing to do with the actual characteristics of the fight. When analyzing any given scenario, you must wipe out your feelings. They will get in the way of a cold and precise analysis. The Inuzuka boy won by the slightest of margins. You were almost wrong." "Did you know he was going to win?" "I was unsure."
more. You see, this squadmate of yours lacks potential. He will never advance further than Chunin his entire ninja career. The girl, however, has strength hidden underneath, and it appears the Hokage's training is bringing it forth. The Inuzuka boy may have developed earlier as a shinobi, but his ceiling is far lower than the girl's. Had this fight been held 3 months from now, the girl would have won it.
How could you tell that?
I have a great eye for shinobi potential. It is my duty to cultivate the strongest ninjas in our village, to protect the leaf and the land of fire. And you, Hinata Hyuga, have more potential than any of the contestants here. Potential that your father is hell-bent on squandering. You're wrong. I have no talent. I am never wrong. Girl.
Hinata didn't know what to say. Was this him just toying with her? Of course she didn't have more potential than Neji, or Shino, or Lee, or Sakura, or Kiba, but Danzo seemed so serious. An eerie silence permeated the room until Shino and Choji stepped into the arena. The two contestants stared at each other. Insects crawled out from Shino's skin, which made Choji visibly uncomfortable. The 3 gourds he carried remained closed. Shino was the type of guy that exhaled creepiness, even though he was very nice. People just didn't give him a chance, Hinata thought. Genma started the fight. Choji weaved a hand seal. Human bullet tank! His body expanded and turned into a massive ball that spun towards Shino, opening a groove on the ground below. Shino jumped up, avoiding the attack. Choji passed by below and turned to attack again. However, he didn't find Shino. He was flying, hovering on top of a dark cloud of insects, about 10 meters above the ground. Choji's circular form lapped around the arena to build up speed. Shino only observed, utterly unfazed. Choji centered his vector of attack towards Shino and used the momentum to leap towards him, spinning, pushing the air around him by the sheer speed of it. But Shino saw the attack coming from a mile away. His cloud of insects just got out of the way and Choji's bullet tank hit nothing. Shino himself didn't even move. Choji crashed against the opposite wall of the arena, cracking it, and returned to his normal form after he landed. "That's not fair!" he said, pointing towards Shino flying above. "Actually, we can make use of any technique available to us. If you can't reach this high up, you should surrender, so I won't have to attack you with my insects. I'm pretty sure you'll find them disgusting." "You underestimate me!" Choji weaved another hand sign. "Super multi-sized expansion jutsu!" Choji's body blocked the sun. He grew taller than the arena stands. The crowd gasped and cheered in excitement. Much in the contrary, the Aburame clan never underestimates their opponents. Shino was still calm despite Choji's gargantuan size. The massive ninja threw a punch. He had to wangle it down because of his size, even though Shino was flying. This time the cloud of insects did not move. Shino jumped up instead. Choji's fist hit the swarm, which bursted into a cloud of bugs, but he did not hit Shino, and with no insects accompanying him, he tossed 2 kunai with paper bombs towards Choji's huge face. It was about 3 times larger than Shino himself. Choji raised his hands to block the kunais. They didn't even pierce his thickened skin, and the explosions didn't seem to hurt. Shino landed on Choji's shoulder and surfed down his back as Choji swirled around, trying to grasp Shino with his oversized hands. As Choji was about to snatch him, Shino jumped up, focusing his chakra on his feet to stand upright and run along Choji's forearm. Choji motioned to swing his arm down and toss Shino away, but he jumped off the arm, landing on Choji's leg. He was very slippery and moved with precision. Every maneuver he did was deliberate, as if he was prompting Choji to attack exactly how he wanted to. However, Shino's insects were nowhere to be seen. He jumped away from Choji and landed on the ground, where he remained still, looking up at Choji, right in front of his colossal form. His face was serene. Choji was taken aback. Why would he just stand in front of him? "I told you! Not to underestimate me," Choji said, lifting his foot and stomping it towards Shino, but Shino was ready. He knew what Choji would do and jumped to the side, avoiding the strike. The impact opened a large and deep footprint-shaped crater on the arena ground, and now Shino began to run away from Choji, heading towards the arena wall. Choji dug his foot off the ground and turned towards Shino to chase him. However, before Choji could take his first step towards his direction, his massive body fell, seemingly in slow motion due to its size and hit the ground, lifting a wave of dust that hit the entire arena and made the spectators cough. Choji's massive body began to return to its normal size, and as it did, a swarm of insects began to fly out from within his clothes. They returned into Shino, crawling back underneath his skin as Shino walked towards Choji. Genma looked at Choji. He was dazed, almost unconscious. Choji Akimichi is unable to continue. The winner is Shino Aburame. The crowd barely cheered, not understanding what happened, and most of them had been rooting for Choji regardless because of his flamboyant jutsu. What happened? Choji said, drooling in exhaustion. When you punched my swarm, I made my insect slip through your sleeve to drain your chakra. What? But how didn't I notice? I tossed the kunai and explosives to distract you, and when you grow your body to that size, your skin sensitivity decreases, meaning that you couldn't even feel the insects crawling on your skin. The same properties that make you more durable in that state make you vulnerable to my insects. Also, because you were so much larger, the surface area of your skin increases exponentially, meaning that my insects have much more surface area to drain chakra from. Usually, only a fraction of the insects of the swarm can drain chakra at the same time, only those directly touching the target, but because your body was so large, every insect was able to drain you at the same time. That's why you fell so quickly. The entire explanation went completely over Choji's head. I apologize. I understand the sensation is rather unpleasant. You'll be alright tomorrow once you take a good rest. Choji didn't say anything else, as he was carried out of the arena by a group of ninja medics. Asuma facepalmed. Oh man, he didn't even scratch Shino. That sucks. I told you shouldn't underestimate Shino. He may not look, but he's very strong, Kurenai said. Indeed. He turned all of Choji's strengths against him, the hallmark of a true shinobi. You didn't think of warning Choji not to use the expansion jutsu against an Aburame ninja, Asuma? Kakashi said. I didn't think of it, to be honest. I told Choji to go in full force, and Shino would buckle. Guess I was wrong. There was something strange, though, Kakashi said. He should have been able to drain Choji even faster than what he did. With the insects touching Choji's skin and all the surface area they had to contact being so large, Shino should have won the fight almost immediately after he slipped the insects through Choji's sleeve. And yet, he danced around Choji's body. Well, maybe Shino wanted to do some theatrics and display his youthful spirit. There's an entire crowd watching you, Kakashi. Some people like that type of stuff, Guy said. No, Shino doesn't strike me as the guy who would do that. I'm almost certain the insects only began draining Choji after he opened that crater on the ground. It was almost as though Shino goaded him into doing that. I wonder why. Well, regardless, Shino will have a tough time against Neji the next round, Guy said. But Neji has yet to fight, and he's fighting against somebody from your squad too? Guy, what are you talking about? Kurenai said, baffled. I mean, let's be honest, Tenten's not beating Neji. She still has a lot to develop, and we're working on that. Danzo smirked. The winner of that fight had already been predetermined. The Aburame boy had absolutely no chance of losing. I suppose you're happy about your squad mate's victory. Well, yes, though I knew Shino would win. He's very strong. Yes, he is. Tell me, who do you think will win the exams? If I have to pick one, I would say my cousin Neji. He's the one that's truly talented. Is that so? Danzo said as Neji and Tenten stepped into the arena, preparing to fight. Tenten felt sheer excitement. She finally got here, in front of a large crowd. She would finally show the world what she was capable of after all the training. Neji, if you go easy on me, I'll never forgive you, Tenten said, pointing at her squad mate. Neji smiled. I would never. You know that. Tenten smiled back. They had been teammates for so long. Enough time for Tenten to learn everything about him. She had a plan, a new weapon that even Neji wouldn't be able to deal with. She could beat him. For some reason, despite it not making any sense, Tenten was confident. And after she won the fight, she could finally confess her feelings to Neji. That way, they would be equals in their relationship. Neji wouldn't have to worry about protecting her. Genma started the fight. Tenten summoned her trump card, Kokina, a weapon of her design. It looked like a large staff filled with different contraptions and several. It was over. Before Tenten could even form a stance with her weapon, Neji dashed at her and struck her chest with a gentle fist blow. She couldn't even perceive Neji's movements. The blow knocked her to the ground and she lost consciousness. The winner is Neji Hyuga, Genma said with no emotion to his voice. The crowd was a mixture of disappointment and awe. 1 second was all it took for Neji to win, ending the fight with a single blow. The second semifinal was decided. Neji versus Shino. See, I told you guys, Guy said with a grimace. The other Jonins looked slightly amused.
Neji really is amazing,
Hinata said with reverence.
Beating that pathetic girl doesn't make anyone amazing.
Hinata could feel the derision oozing off Danzo's words.
If he had taken any longer to win that, he might as well have lost.
But what do you mean? Tenten is pretty strong.
Kindness is weakness, girl. You say she is strong because you don't want to hurt her feelings, even though the girl isn't even present. It's a lie you tell yourself so you can feel that you are a good person. It holds you back. If the only way you can accept yourself is by being submissive and harmless, you will remain that way until you die.
I didn't.
You know the truth. Say it.
I can't.
Say it.
Tenten is a pathetic ninja. Hinata felt a strange sense of freedom after saying it, as if for the first time she let herself be honest. A weight lifting off her shoulders, even though she was mean.
Good. A true shinobi must be pragmatic.
Feelings and emotions are secondary.
Once you learn that, no one will be able to stop you.
Is it true that Naruto is being hunted down? Hinata blurted out. Danzo hesitated.
How do you know?
I eavesdropped you talking to other ninjas before the tournament. I'm sorry.
Never apologize for your competence, girl. Yes, Naruto Uzumaki is in grave danger, and unfortunately the 5th Hokage is underestimating the power of the Akatsuki.
But surely the Leaf Village can do something to protect him, right?
In our current state, we are utterly hopeless. We only know of 2 Akatsuki members in some detail, Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki. If all other members are as strong as they are, they could wipe out this village off the map if they decided to.
But Lady Tsunade, she's powerful. She could protect us.
She's not nearly as powerful as you think. Itachi Uchiha's power is unlike anything you know. The last Leaf Shinobi that would have any chance against him died over 13 years ago.
The 4th Hokage?
Yes, and we are running out of time. There won't be a new 4th Hokage, and I don't see any shinobi in our ranks that will be able to halt the storm once it crashes down upon us. The Hokage's philosophy will lead this village to its undoing. It encourages weakness, it makes our shinobi soft, but I won't let it destroy us. And for that, Naruto Uzumaki is the key. If the Akatsuki gets him, we're all finished. If they get the power of the 9 tails, I don't know what could happen to this world.
There was an intensity to Danzo's gaze as he looked down at the arena, the new contestants stepping in. Somehow Hinata knew the man believed everything he said. Rock Lee and Kiba stepped into the arena grounds, facing each other. An arm sling held Kiba's broken left arm. He tried to hide his pain, but the blow Sakura dealt would take a while to heal.
Hey, Bolcuts! Don't you dare go easy on me because of my broken arm!
Kiba said. You should pay more attention. Saying that didn't work out very well the last fight, Lee said.
Whatever! Akamaru, let's do this!
Genma started the fight. Akamaru transformed into Kiba, and they both assumed the fang over fang stance. Exploding into motion, they spun towards Lee, looking like 2 miniature typhoons as Kiba endured the pain in his arm. Rock Lee's stance was collected, one hand behind his back, the other arm stretched in front of him, hand raised high. As Kiba and Akamaru were about to strike, Lee erupted into motion, sidestepping his attackers, twisting forms. Leaf Stream! With a fluid motion, he landed a kick on Kiba and a punch on Akamaru, hitting both of them on the sides, where the fang over fang rotation is not as dangerous. Lee's blows were fast enough to overpower the spinning, and they were both flung towards opposite directions. Kiba and Akamaru tried to stand up, but Lee's attacks were so powerful they coughed up blood and fell to the ground. Kiba Inuzuka isn't able to continue. The winner is Rock Lee, Genma said. The first finalist was decided.
Yeah! Let's go, Lee!
Guy screamed in utter enthusiasm. That was easy, huh? One attack for each, and they were both knocked out, just like Neji did, Asuma said. You really trained them well, Guy. I'll have to give you that.
Oh yeah, both my students ended their fights in a single attack. Imagine how the final is going to look. It's gonna be crazy! The power of youth will overflow, and every single one of us will—
Look at that. Is that a dodo bird? Kakashi said, looking at the sky, completely ignoring Guy.
Kakashi, why do you have to be so heartless?
Lee clenched his fists in excitement. Finally, he will be able to face Neji, his lifelong rival. He could finally prove that hard work can defeat natural talent. And the best part was that Lee was not tired at all. He didn't even come close to using the gates. He would be able to unleash everything he had in the final fight, even his new trump card.
Kiba lost so fast. Even I lasted longer against Lee. Perhaps you're right. We don't have what it takes to face the storm,
Hinata said, but Danzo scoffed.
You think yourself inferior to the Inuzuka boy? Kiba has been performing better in the missions every time. Much better than me. Because you're being held back. The so-called will of fire is preventing you from fulfilling your destiny. Your true potential is far greater than any of the other contestants here, and I said that before. You said you have a good eye for talented shinobi, but you can't be right about this. There's no way I'm more gifted than Neji. It's common knowledge that he is the greatest prodigy of the Hyuga clan. I don't even come close to his Keiki Genkai prowess.
Danzo turned his head, staring her dead in the eye.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Tetsu Hyuga, the Gifted? No, I thought not. It's not a story the Hyuga would tell you. It's a legend from the Warring States period, from before ninja villages were founded. Tetsu Hyuga was the most talented Hyuga of the time, hailed as a prodigy, just like your cousin Neji is today. During the time of war, clans fought against each other, vying for territorial domination, and Tetsu made a plan to take control over what would one day be the Land of Fire. The first step of his plan was to take an outpost so the Hyuga army could use it as a staging ground and launch an unprecedented offensive against other clans. He thought himself lucky. The outpost was controlled by Uchihas, but it was very lightly defended and fortified. Tetsu had no doubt in his mind he would be able to take it with no setbacks. However, he didn't count on one particular individual protecting the outpost. One Uchiha that would single-handedly wipe out the entire Hyuga army and Tetsu himself. Madara Uchiha? You know about Madara? I know a little. Good guess, but it wasn't Madara. Rather, it was Hikaku Uchiha, an unsung hero of the Warring States period and a true prodigy. He defended the outpost alone, and despite the alleged genius of Tetsu and the Hyuga clan, Hikaku slaughtered them like animals. But how? If he was so gifted, how could he lose with an entire army backing him up? Observe,
Danzo said, pointing to the arena ground where Neji and Shino were about to fight in the second semi-final. Neji peered at Shino with his Byakugan. He saw the cluster of insects that inhabited his body, but couldn't see into the 3 gourds Shino carried. It won't work. I went through the pain of shrouding my gourds with a sealing jutsu that blocks the Byakugan's sight, Shino said. Neji scowled, realizing his opponent had read him so thoroughly. Begin, Genma said, with a brisk hand gesture. Neji dashed towards Shino, Byakugan activated, and Shino jumped up. A mass of dark bugs exploded from within him, mid-air, forming a cloud which Shino stood on. He flew up, getting out of the range of Neji's fists. You should surrender now, Shino said, hovering over 20 meters above the ground. His face was calm, too calm. This irritated Neji. He wasn't supposed to be the one in control. Neji was, but his bravado wouldn't last very long. You think just because I cannot strike you with my hands, I'll become useless? Yes. And I warn you, being drained by my insects is not pleasant. I would prefer to avoid doing that. Ridiculous! Neji shouted. He had to make up for losing the first round of the previous exams. Winning this tournament was the least he could do. He wanted to make his father proud. Though the Hyuga clan had become much more lax with the branch family, it seemed that Lord Hiashi had been acting more harshly towards Hinata because of it. Perhaps, if he wins the tournament, he could soothe the situation. Shino gestured towards Neji, and a small swath of insects disconnected from the the cloud he stood on and darted down. The small cloud opened and surrounded Neji, swirling around him. Then, as if controlled by a hive mind, all insects changed direction, going straight towards Neji from all sides. But the Hyuga smirked and used the rotation, easily destroying all those insects without difficulty. Stopping the rotation, Neji looked up at Shino and swung his fist in his direction. Gentle fist. Air palm! A blast of compressed air blasted from Neji's palm, streaking towards his airborne opponent. Shino dodged it, flying sideways, but Neji swung his other fist, sending another air palm his way. Shino got out of the way again. He crouched down on his dark living cloud and began to fly with a chaotic, evasive pattern. Neji unleashed a long barrage of air palms. Did you think I would sit down idly after that fight? Neji said, remembering his battle against Kidomaru. Did you think I wouldn't learn a long-range technique? The blasts of air narrowly missed, but Shino still avoided them all. The swarm was much faster than Neji could have imagined, and at range, Shino could see the attacks coming with ease. When he crouched down on his swarm and used all 4 of his limbs to attach himself to the bugs, he could fly veering with a terse motion, changing directions faster than Neji could follow. No, I was certain you would have something up your sleeve. However, your attacks lack the speed necessary to hit me, Shino said. Neji realized Shino had been slowly moving away from him, increasing the distance between the two, flying up and away from Neji to make it easier for him to see the air palms coming, which let him dodge without much difficulty. Neji ran after him, pelting Shino with more air palms, chasing after him around the arena grounds. Unfortunately, there was nothing else he could do. If Neji tried to jump on a wall to level with Shino, he would simply fly to the opposite side of the arena as soon as Neji started walking up the wall. No matter how much Neji tried to calculate Shino's future location, hitting with the air palms was impossible. He tried to use the blasts and direct Shino to specific places where he could strike next, but Neji just couldn't find his mark. Trying to decipher the pattern Shino was flying was impossible. It seemed completely random. The chase drew longer, and none of the opponents hit a single blow against each other. The crowd began to boo them, craving more excitement. Eventually, Neji stopped chasing him and waited in the middle of the arena. He wouldn't waste any more chakra with air palms if they wouldn't hit. Shino could come after him. He would destroy all of his insects with his rotation, and once he ran out of them, Neji would finish the fight on the ground. He couldn't keep running forever. Shino turned at him, noticing he stopped the pursuit. I assume you were waiting for me to send my insects and destroy them, so that I won't be able to fly anymore. Unfortunately for you, this won't work. I calculated the step you just took. Surrender. This will be unpleasant for you. Don't make me laugh. Very well then. I respect your resolve, Shino said, uncorking 2 of the 3 gourds he carried. A thin black mist emerged from one of them, and massive insects, larger than a fist, began to fly away from the other. A swarm of them. Those huge bugs were nightmare-inducing, with 2 sets of large wings, mandibles, and a thick carapace covered in a wicked fur. Hundreds of them flew around Shino as if they were a private army of miniature devils. In the arena stands, Guy hugged Kakashi and screamed. He closed his eyes, wincing as Kakashi looked absolutely annoyed. Kakashi, I hate those insects! What the hell? What the hell are those? Those things, they're not pure! They're not youthful! I can't look! Man up, Guy. You faced Itachi Uchiha without hesitation but cannot look at some insects. Kakashi sighed with a loud sigh. Several others in the crowd had gut reactions just like Guy. Many people screamed at Shino and others left the stands, afraid of seeing the insects. He didn't acknowledge the crowd whatsoever though. Kurina looked at Shino surprised. I didn't expect him to use the giant toe biters here. Neji looked at the dark mist mixing with the evil-looking massive bugs, and then he saw it. With his Byakugan, he could see that the dark mist was made up of thousands upon thousands of tiny chakra points. There was another swarm of insects, another species, each of them no larger than a millimeter. It doesn't matter how many insects you throw against me, I'll destroy all of them. Shino didn't say anything, but both swarms of massive and tiny insects alike rushed at Neji. He started his rotation, but as soon as he did, the tiny insect stopped and simply hovered midair around the rotation as the giant toe biters continued, hitting the spinning chakra. They were flung by the force of the blow, but they didn't die. As a matter of fact, each time they impacted the rotation, they bit off a chunk of its chakra, devouring it, and then they flew right back at it again. Every time they came back after eating some of the chakra, they seemed to get faster, stronger, and even more monstrous. Hundreds of those devils chipped away at the rotation, their carapace somehow withstanding the powerful rotation chakra. Neji could not keep up. They would soon break through his rotation, and then he would be in trouble. Neji stopped his rotation with a brisk motion and assumed the 128 palm stance. Immediately, as if the large insects were expecting that, they they flew away from Neji, passing between the swarm of minuscule bugs, which in turn darted towards Neji. He threw his sequence of gentle fist blows towards the minute insects, managing to strike them because of the Byakugan's perception, even though they were so small. However, there were thousands upon thousands of them. His 128 palms were nearly enough to destroy them all. It didn't even make a dent on the swarm, and they began to crawl on Neji's skin. As he felt his chakra being drained by the minuscule insects, he started his rotation again, but the swarm of minuscule insects retreated as the massive ones came down upon Neji once more, pelting his rotation until he had to switch to his gentle fist palms again, trying to destroy them individually, but they fell back, and the tiny insects swarmed in once more, forcing another rotation. Neji roared in anger, having no answer as the insects rinsed and repeated the same routine 5 more times, until Neji succumbed to their pressure. The insects completely swarmed him and drained his chakra dry. Neji's screams of agony echoed around a silent stadium. The shocked crowd could not utter a word, but those who stayed could not avert their gaze. Shino had watched the entire dance of swarms from up above, not having moved a muscle. His face was as calm as ever. When the screaming ceased, he pulled his insects away back into their gourds, leaving Neji collapsed on the arena floor. He was convulsing slightly. Genma took a few seconds, but finally declared Shino the victor. The crowd did not cheer. What? Neji lost? Lee said, not believing his eyes. He wouldn't be able to fight Neji after all. But how was that possible? Shino shouldn't be strong enough to beat Neji. Shino flew back down close to Neji as medics began to swarm around him. He's having a mild anaphylactic shock. The giant toe biter's bite is extremely powerful and injects a small dosage of poison into the body. I tried to keep them from biting him directly as much as I could, but they are always hungry for more chakra. You should administer adrenaline to treat the symptoms. The medics nodded and carried Neji away. I can't believe this, Guy said. He beat Neji, and there isn't a single scratch on him. Kurenai smiled, satisfied. You should not have boasted that much, Guy. Shino may not look, but he is quite powerful. I have to agree with Guy, though. Those big bugs are creepy as hell. Can't imagine the terror Neji felt being swarmed by them, Asuma said. They are special insects, just like the flying lice, Kurenai said. What? Flying lice? Guy said, confused. The very tiny ones. You probably didn't see them because you shut your eyes during the fight, Guy, Kurenai said. Lice. Now that's unpleasant. On top of those big ones. The Aburame clan really creeps me out, Asuma said. Well, people usually don't like to watch Aburame clan members fight. I even took some time to get used to the bugs Shino always carries, but all those insects can be very useful. You'd be surprised with the amount of applications Shino's come up with during missions. The more powerful you are in the Aburame clan, the more insect varieties you can control, and the more insects you can control, the more you advance through the ranks. Each different variety of bugs has a specific skill. Shino so happens to be very powerful in the clan. Only a handful of their shinobi can control the flying lice and the giant toe biters, Kurenai said with pride in her voice. It's not just power, Kakashi said. That boy is far more intelligent than people give him credit for. He used a perfect strategy to win the fight. What do you mean, Kakashi? I thought Neji just couldn't handle that amount of insects. It wasn't that simple. Obviously, Shino flew up to avoid Neji's gentle fist taijutsu, but even when Neji proved himself capable of striking from afar, Shino seemed to be expecting that. He goaded Neji into spending his chakra to hit him from far away, but from that distance he knew he wouldn't be hit. Then came the brilliance of his strategy. Those two insect varieties were a perfect counter for the gentle fist. The large ones managed to withstand the blows of the rotation and overwhelm it. Neji switched to the 128 palms to try and counter them, destroying them individually, but Shino anticipated that, because Shino changed his attack and sent the small insects instead when Neji changed his posture. No matter how fast Neji hit them, he would never catch them all, but the rotation would, so then he started the rotation again. And then, well, Shino just changed the attack pattern again, sending the large insects until Neji crumbled. He even attacked Neji with his regular insects in the beginning of the fight, which Neji easily destroyed to instill a false sense of security. Shino had a perfect plan for this fight. He anticipated he would fight against Neji in the semifinals and prepared accordingly, Kakashi said. So do you think he also prepared like that to fight Lee in the final? I have no doubt. I wonder what type of insect he's carrying in that third gourd he didn't open. Hinata gaped at Shino. She knew he was strong, but to beat Neji in such a devastating way was unfathomable. When Naruto beat Neji, it was a very difficult fight, and he used the Nine Tails' chakra, but Shino? He made it look effortless.
That's how Hikaku destroyed Tetsu and his army,
Danzo said. What do you mean? He couldn't have used the same strategy as Shino.
Not the same strategy, but he knew the weaknesses of the Gentle Fist and the Byakugan. Girl, the Kekkei Genkai of your clan is nothing but a gimmick. The Hyuga like to call themselves the strongest of the leaf, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. Any half-competent shinobi that knows what the Gentle Fist's powers are can beat a Hyuga. Neji never even had a chance in this fight. That boy from the Aburame clan is talented and intelligent. He controlled the flow of battle and exploited the weaknesses of your clan's fight philosophy.
But that doesn't make sense. Neji was the #1 student of his year in the academy, and everyone hailed him as a prodigy, much more powerful than anybody else his age. And Shino, well, he's always been strong, but he wasn't even top of his class.
That is correct, and that's why the Gentle Fist is a gimmick. Yes, inheriting the Kekkei Genkai will distinguish you from your peers when you are so young. They will be inexperienced and weak, therefore the Gentle Fist and the Byakugan will be something they won't be able to counter. It gives you an innate strength, but that strength has a ceiling. Hyuga clan members have a proclivity to be hailed as geniuses and prodigies when they are in the academy, but is there a Hyuga famous worldwide for his exploits?
My father, he is known.
Your father is barely above average when it comes to the Jonin of the Leaf. He's only somewhat known for being the head of the clan, because that's the problem. Once others can train and catch up to you, the Hyuga clan's abilities are nothing but a gimmick. They are extremely easy to counter. That's why most Hyuga shinobi are used as scouts and sensory types and nothing else, because that's the best usage the Leaf has for their Byakugan. It doesn't matter how long that Neji Hyuga trains his Gentle Fist, he will never come close to the power of the Akatsuki.
You don't make sense. You say the Hyuga powers are worthless, but then you tell me I have more potential than anybody in this tournament.
I never said they are worthless. I said they are a gimmick. Gimmicks can be useful, but solely relying on them will get you stuck in mediocrity. There is a limit for the amount of power a Hyuga clan member can achieve, and that's because your clan refuses to learn other jutsus that are not related to your Kekkei Genkai, apart from the most basic ones you learn in the academy.
That was true. Her father forbade Kurenai-sensei from teaching her any new abilities, and she couldn't even master the Hyuga ones to begin with.
The stupidity of your clan, ever wanting to maintain the purity of your bloodline, is pathetic. I despise the Hyuga clan, and your father is the worst of them all. Even the Uchiha clan was never that strict when it came to their bloodline, and they completely eclipsed the Hyuga. Their powers were worth preserving. The Hyuga dogma, on the other hand, even forbids their shinobi from learning other jutsu, from fear that it will somehow taint their precious Byakugan. It might be true that you haven't inherited the Hyuga Kekkei Genkai as powerful as Neji has, but that hardly matters. When I tell you have more potential than him, I mean as a shinobi, not as a Hyuga. If you branched out and actually learned abilities that suit your talents, using your Hyuga gimmick when it's worthwhile, you would become unstoppable. You would attain the power to fight the Akatsuki, the power to save Naruto Uzumaki.
Is it possible to learn this power? Danzo paused and slowly turned his face towards hers, peering into her soul with a single exposed eye.
Not from a Hyuga.
Rock Lee stepped into the arena grounds. The crowd cheered. The majority was rooting for him. Shino didn't even leave the arena grounds after he won against Neji, and his insects soured the crowd. Nobody liked him. The insects would be a problem for Lee though. He thought his best option would be to avoid them entirely, which should be doable, but if he got surrounded, that would be bad. He wouldn't have Neji's precision with a Gentle Fist to take out the big ones one by one, or the rotation to fend off against the smaller ones. Lee would have to be fast. fast to avenge Neji, to win the exams and finally go out with Sakura, to make his dreams come true. The good news was that he would be able to unleash everything he had in this match. After all, he didn't use his gates in the previous matches. Genma started the fight for the crowd's delirium. They really wanted Lee to beat this creep that used insects. Lee spurred into action, dashing towards Shino, who jumped backwards, but not up. A swarm of insects erupt from his body and two of his gourds, the two he had used against Neji, mixing the giant toe biters and flying lice with his normal insects. They formed a large dark barrier between Lee and Shino, closing in, covering the sun. Lee darted sideways, avoiding the crashing mass of insects, using all of his speed. He didn't have his weights on for this fight. Strangely, Shino was on the ground. Lee was positive he would fly just like he did against Neji. He was running away from Lee while his insects tried to reach him. Lee maneuvered throughout the arena, trying not to get surrounded, but the mass of insects was keeping to a large single swarm. They were not dispersing as Lee thought they would to surround him. Lee focused and his speed surged. He ran around the swarm and bolted towards Shino, jumping and aiming a kick straight at him. Dynamic entry! A smaller swarm of bugs came out of his body, forming a shield, blocking Lee's attack. He had left some insects in reserve just in case. Still, Shino was thrown back by the force of the kick and fell into the large footprint crater Choji had created in his fight against Shino previously. As Lee was about to pounce, he heard the loud noise of the swarm approaching from behind. Shino had fallen, but his insects were still chasing. And then Lee realized he meant to draw me into the crater and attack him there, so that the only way I would be able to run would be up. But once I jump up, he would close my escape route with the bugs. I'm sure he let my kick push him into that crater so that I would think that I got him, and then he would trap me inside with those thousands and thousands of insects, Lee thought, but he wouldn't fall for it. Lee dashed away from the crater as the insects crushed down upon it. As Lee expected, he was supposed to be in there, trapped with all those insects. The great swarm swirled above the crater, a dark maelstrom. Lee readied himself, but the insects kept on flying above the crater. He then grabbed 3 kunais in each hand from his satchel, all of them wrapped in paper bombs attached to them, and threw them towards the insects. Before they impacted the large swarm, a smaller number of regular insects detached themselves from the maelstrom, blocking the kunais that exploded, killing those insects. Shino erupted from the top section of the maelstrom, flying upwards on a smaller cloud of insects. So his initial plan didn't work, and now he's resorted to flying. I see, staying on the ground was just a trap after all. I knew there had to be a reason for him to stay below, Lee thought with a smile as Shino stopped hovering midair, 20 meters above the ground. He centered himself in the middle of the arena. I see, he knows what I'm about to do. He's staying as far away from each hole as he can, as I am going to use them as leverage to try and get to him with my taijutsu, Lee thought. The rest of the swarm flew up and spread out, orbiting around Shino, the small lice and the large toe biters together. And now he is surrounding himself with the insects in case I jump towards him. He knows I don't have ranged options. Damn, he's pretty smart. I'll have to bypass those insects around him with sheer force, and I'll have to be really fast to even get to him. Flying the very center of the arena doesn't really help me at all, Lee thought. Well, I suppose this fight will end soon. I will either get you or I won't, Lee said, joining his hands in the inner gate stance. He could have activated them when Shino was on the ground, but he had been afraid of a trap. Turns out he was right. The gates might have prompted him to act. He wouldn't have seen the ambush Shino was trying to spring with the crater. Lee then had an idea. Before he even activated the gates, he ran over and looked at the footprint crater, just to make sure there were no more tricks. The crater was completely empty, no insects at all. Now that Shino was airborne, all cards were on the table. Lee would just have to make sure to go fast enough that any insect he hit would be instantly crushed, not allowing them to drain his chakra. Let's finish this. 5th gate, the gate of limit. Open! The ground exploded around Lee. Veins popped all around his face and his skin became crimson. He felt his muscles beginning to rip, as if thousands of incandescent needles were piercing all over his body. But that didn't matter. He was used to the pain at this point. Shino flew up. Actually, he had started to fly up when Lee was in the process of opening the gates. He was so high up, in fact, that he was above the arena stands. Lee looked up in horror. He hadn't thought of that. There were no rules to the exam. There was no such such a thing as going out of bounds. And if Lee used the arena walls to propel himself towards Shino and missed him, Lee would soar up and fly far away from the arena, simply because of the angle Shino was flying. He was taller than the walls themselves, and Lee wouldn't land back in the arena if he had to use all of his speed. In fact, he would probably land outside of the Leaf Village entirely if he used a full burst of the 5th gate, and that's what he would have to do to be fast enough, and maybe that wouldn't even cut it, as the distance between him and Shino, even if Lee climbed the wall, would be substantial. If he flew out of the arena, he would have to make his way back to it, and that would take some time. Precious time Lee didn't have with the gates opened. Shino had waited to fly above the arena level until Lee opened the gates. He knew once they were open, Lee would have to pounce. There was no other option. Yes, Lee could close the gates before he was completely drained, but his physical capabilities would be severely affected, and Shino will be able to swarm him sooner or later with his insects. So Lee had to attack, and he had to make sure his first strike would hit Shino. If it did, the fight was his. If it didn't, Lee didn't want to think of that. Lee jumped on the arena wall and crouched, preparing to thrust himself with everything he had towards Shino. I've never used it in battle, and I can only maintain it for a few seconds, but this is all or nothing anyways, and it's the last fight. So, 6th gate, the gate of view, open! Verdant chakra exploded from around Lee, cracking the wall of the arena. He chose a wall that didn't support any of the arena stands. His muscles burned with the power of 1,000 suns, and he couldn't even hear the crowd roaring in excitement because of the insane rush of chakra. Rock Lee focused all of his strength into his legs and jumped towards Shino. The wall he was standing on exploded. It fell down as Lee beamed towards Shino in the form of a green comet. Every insect that flew around Shino took the shape of a massive shield and stood in between Shino and Lee. Leaf battering ram! Lee punched the shield, reaching Shino's position in a fraction of a second. The swarm unraveled, exploding outwards as Lee pierced the shield and hit Shino's stomach with the same punch. It's over, Lee thought, wincing from the pain. But Shino dissolved into more insects. That wasn't his real body. It was an insect clone, and the 6th gate ran out. He couldn't keep it activated for more than that. The pain of all his muscles ripping apart inundated his senses. He could no longer move. He could barely stay conscious, and he was dozens of meters above the ground. Lee fell. The crowd gasped as they realized his body was limp. Using the 6th gate wasn't a good idea after all. An impact from this height without protecting himself, with his body motionless, would certainly be fatal. Tears began to stream from Rock Lee's eyes as he thought about Gai-sensei, Neji, Naruto, but he was also ashamed. He couldn't fulfill what he promised. His legacy would be empty. A swarm of insects flew under Lee and caught him before he hit the ground. The insects lowered him and set him down gently on the arena. Lee was surprised, but he then understood. Shino saved him. Shino emerged from the ground close to the footprint crater. A swarm of large centipedes came out of the ground and crawled next to Shino, getting back inside of Shino's 3rd gourd, the one he didn't open in the fight against Neji. Lee tried to stand up, fighting the burning agony of his destroyed muscles. He wouldn't just give up. Even though Shino had saved him, they were still fighting. But the same insects that saved Lee from the fall wrapped themselves around Lee's arms, immobilizing him, but they didn't drain his chakra. The winner is Shino Aburame, Genma said. The crowd gave a lukewarm round of applause. They had been rooting for Rock Lee and didn't like Shino's style, but he did save Lee from the fall. Through the immense pain Lee felt on every single fiber of his body, he felt even greater frustration. He thought he had won. He thought he landed that blow. He was so close. Shino knelt down close to Lee. You fought well. The odds were stacked against you, he said in his calm demeanor. How'd you do that? Lee asked, gritting his teeth. I wanted to force you to use the gates and stay out of your range until they ran out. I calculated that by flying at the center of the arena, I would be able to avoid any advancements you did with the 5th gate if you jumped off a wall. But I used the 6th gate. I hit you. How? The Aburame clan never underestimates their opponents, Shino said, looking at the large section of the wall Lee had destroyed in his final attack. I assumed you would have something up your sleeve, a new move, more powerful than the 5th gate. The 6th gate was a good guess, and my assumption was correct, so I had a contingency plan. Contingency? I let my myself fall in that crater. My intention was to make you think I was drawing you in for a trap, but I knew you wouldn't fall for it. While in there, I created my insect clone and used my 1,000-like centipedes to carve a hole underground where my real self could hide. The centipedes are accomplished Earth-style users, so they could dig a hole and cover it up. When you looked at the crater, you didn't see anything suspicious, even though I was hiding in there, safely from you. From the moment you saw me emerging from the maelstrom, you were fighting against my clone all along.
I see. You hid well. I had no idea you could burrow underground.
I took inspiration from him, though I admit my method was far more cowardly. Lee smiled, remembering when Naruto used a similar technique to beat Neji in the previous exams.
He wasn't cowardly. He was smart,
Lee said, extending a trembling hand towards Shino. He took it.
Good fight,
Lee said. Shino nodded. Good fight. Guy looked at his fallen student. He shed a tear, not believing what he just watched. It was a good fight, but he shouldn't have underestimated Shino, Kurenai said, proud of her student. It's alright, Guy. There's always a chance in the next exam, and maybe Lady Tsunade will promote Lee even though he lost, Kakashi said. Still, 6th gate, huh? You're really pushing him. I thought he wouldn't advance further than the 5th gate for a while.
Lee's just like me.
I mean, you're doing a good job, Asuma said, pointing at the crumbled wall. I still don't believe Shino won the tournament without a scratch, though. That's just insane. And it's not just that, Kakashi said. Shino planned everything. Every last minute detail. All his 3 fights. He predicted that he would fight against Neji and Lee after fighting Choji, and he prepared those centipedes intending on using them against Lee. And the strange dodge pattern he used against Choji was on purpose. He intended to make Choji carve that large crater for him to use against Lee in the final. He didn't only predict every opponent he would face in the tournament, but he also predicted every technique they would use and turned them against them. Shino implemented perfect counters for all of them and even used some of their abilities against opponents in following rounds. That's beyond the level of a Chunin even. Are you saying Shino could be promoted straight to Jonin? Kurenai asked in excitement. No, Lady Tsunade has a policy of not promoting anyone to Jonin rank before they turn 16, but he'll no doubt become a Chunin after this display. Danzo scoffed as medic ninjas carried Rock Lee on a stretcher.
This result was obvious. Anyone with half a wit could see the Aburame boy was going to win this tournament without difficulty.
He stood up and motioned to leave the room. Hinata barely paid any attention to the fight. She had been reflecting on what Danzo told her about the Hyuga clan and her supposed true potential.
If only they had trained you correctly, maybe you could have won this. Tell your father that if anything happens to you, I will kill him personally. That should keep you safe. Farewell, Hinata Hyuga,
Danzo said, opening the door to leave his private box. Wait! Hinata shouted, surprising herself with the force of her own voice. She stood up and ran towards Danzo, kneeling in front of him, touching her forehead on the ground.
Train me!
Danzo said nothing. Hinata waited for a long moment. She could hear her own heartbeat. Finally, she looked up and didn't see Danzo. Her heart sank. He was walking down the hallway, not even looking at her. As expected, Hinata was not worth being trained. But I have to protect Naruto, she thought. She couldn't give up on that. Hinata stood up and ran towards Danzo again. Wait, please! You said I had potential! Train me! Danzo turned around and looked at her with his all-knowing gaze.
No, the root training will kill you.
I don't care. I'll do it anyway. You want to protect Naruto, right? It's the same thing I want to do. If you think it can be a powerful tool, why not train me? Why not use me? I don't care if I die in the process. I have to at least try.
Even if that's the case, your father would never allow it.
You can convince him. I can do it as well. He hates me. If I die, he will be happy. You saw it firsthand. Danzo stared at her for what seemed to be an eternity.
The shinobi who walks the shadows shall give up on his humanity. Emotion is weakness. Compassion is weakness. Glory is weakness. A true shinobi does not care or seek recognition. A true shinobi protects without ever being seen. The roots that sustain the great tree will never see sunlight, but without them, the tree wilts and dies. These are the ideals of the root Anbu, do you understand?
I do. Danzo slapped her in the face with his backhand.
Let this pain imbue those ideals in your consciousness. Death is not the worst destiny awaiting you should you choose to join the Root. You will relinquish your soul. Do you accept that?
I do. Danzo slapped her again.
Let this pain be a reminder of your sacrifice, so that when darkness shrouds you, you will remember what you fight for. Rise.
Hinata stood up. For the first time in a long time, she felt sure about something she did.
Very well then. Tonight, we will speak to your father, and your training will begin. Prepare yourself.
Hinata nodded. A few hours later, Hinata walked back home from the arena. Lady Tsunade had a meeting with the participants of the exams, well, at least those who could attend. She promoted Shino, Rock Lee, and Neji to the Chunin rank. Ironically, Lee and Neji were receiving treatment, so they didn't even know they were Chunins yet. The Hokage told the ones who didn't make it to keep training, and they would certainly advance in the future. Hinata naturally didn't tell anyone about her conversation with Danzo and what she intended to do. They wouldn't understand. If she managed to fulfill her true potential that Danzo talked about, then maybe she could be useful to Naruto once he returned. Suddenly, Hinata realized she was hungry. She hadn't eaten anything the entire day. After she made up her mind and extinguished the fog of doubt, her appetite had returned. She passed by Ichiraku and almost went in, but then she remembered Naruto's promise to go eat ramen together one day. She wanted that time to be her first ramen bowl. Instead, she settled for some dumplings sold at a stall. Several tourists and foreigners were still in the village, and she could hear some of them debating the results of the exam. They all seemed surprised and disappointed that Shino had won. No one ever mentioned her. Nobody seemed to even remember she participated, and she was glad that was the case. To be a Root was not to be seen. Hinata could do that. She could welcome it. The little girl whose cat Hinata saved before the exam ran past her, shouting, no doubt chasing her cat again. And then she spotted the animal, scrunched up against the corner of a wall. Hinata smiled, looking at the gleeful girl. The girl kicked the head of the cat, which crunched with a vicious blow. The little animal whimpered and tried to stand up, but the little girl stomped the cat's head.
You're so boring! Move faster, you idiots!
A wave of shock rippled through Hinata. She ran towards the little girl. She had to stop that slaughter, but a glance at the cat was enough to see the little animal was dead.
Why did you do that?
Hinata asked the girl. Her mouth was dry and tingly.
Yellen's so boring. I need a new cat anyway.
The girl said, as if she hadn't just killed her pet and strolled away. Hinata stood there in shock for over half an hour. She remembered that the young cat had several scars and wounds. She thought it was because the creature was reckless, but instead, the owner was abusive, and Hinata saved that cat only for it to be slaughtered. She stared at the corpse of the creature, and an image of Naruto, dead, head crushed, flashed in her mind. Hinata retched in the middle of the street, and then she ran away. Her mind was playing tricks with her. She couldn't have that happening. Once she joined the Root, she couldn't be shocked because a kitty died. When Hinata got back to the Hyuga clan complex, she erased her presence. These past few months taught her one thing. She was quite good at stealth, not that her father saw any importance in it. Hinata hid in her usual place underneath a section of a raised floor of a small building in the complex and remained there, mind racing. Naruto, death, Akatsuki, Hyuga, Root, father, Danzo. Her thoughts were pandemonium.
You certainly are good at hiding. That will come in handy,
Danzo's voice said, startling Hinata. She hadn't noticed him at all, and how did he get into the Hyuga complex without anybody stopping him? Besides, he noticed Hinata. Nobody ever noticed Hinata.
Shall we get to your father?
Hinata then realized it was already evening. She had been so distraught and confused that she's been hiding for hours and didn't notice. Taking a deep breath and focusing on what she had to do, protecting Naruto, she came out of her alcove and accompanied Danzo to the main Hyuga complex building. The man used a transformation jutsu to look like a regular Leaf citizen, concealing his presence. This wouldn't work against the Byakugan, but Hyugas didn't walk around with their Byakugan activated. They stopped into the main building and found Hayashi alone in the sitting room, reading a summary report of the Chunin exams. He had a mean scowl on his face, which sent shivers down Hinata's spine. She noticed bandages around her father's torso. Certainly inadvertently put there because of Danzo's kick. Hiyashi looked at Hinata.
I'm surprised you had guts to show your face here again, pathetic girl. Who's that peasant?
Hiyashi said, pointing towards the transformed Danzo who weaved hand signs. A dark barrier that looked like thin sheets of obsidian rose around the room. Danzo then dispelled his transformation jutsu.
You! How dare you enter my house after what you did?
Hiyashi said, standing up and activating his Byakugan.
I have ample reason to kill you. You wouldn't be able to kill me, even in your wettest dreams, Hiyashi. Sit down and calm yourself. The entire Hyuga clan is here. Don't you think you'll be able to escape? That barrier blocks the view of your Byakugan. No one will come for your aid,
Danzo said, sitting down. He gestured for Hiyashi to do the same.
You threaten me in my own house? Yes. Now sit down. We have an important matter to discuss. A matter which requires secrecy. That is why I raised the barrier in the first place. Not because I am afraid of Hyugas attacking me.
Hiyashi was fuming. He looked worse than usual. If this went wrong, Hinata would suffer. It took Hiyashi a long moment, but he sat down across from Danzo. Hinata sat next to Danzo.
Hinata Hyuga will join the Root Anbu and undergo our training. I have come here to inform you of that.
Hiyashi burst in laughter, a mix of amusement and mockery. Hinata hadn't seen him laughing in so long that it made her feel sick.
You are a senile old man if you think that will ever happen. You clearly do not care for her. She's wasted remaining as a regular shinobi in this worthless clan. The training of the Hyuga dampens her true potential.
This one has no potential.
Didn't you watch the exams, you old fool?
Hiyashi said as if Hinata wasn't even present.
Then give her to me. I will shape her into a true shinobi.
No.
Why not, father?
Hinata screamed. She was looking down. She couldn't meet her father's eyes.
You hate me. You literally tried to kill me a few hours ago. I'm probably going to die during the training anyways, and if not, the Akatsuki will probably kill me. You'll be rid of me, and then you'll be able to imprint the inheritance on Hanabi without having to do the deed yourself. You'll never have to deal with my failures again.
Hiyashi looked at her and seemed to consider it.
No, I cannot let the Byakugan fall into anybody's hands. Hiyashi, I assure you that the Byakugan will not fall into the enemy's hands if she joins our ranks. If there's anyone who wishes to protect the village and its secrets, that person will be me. What about your dirty hands, you slimy rat? What do you take me for, Hiyashi? Do you think I'll gouge her eyeballs out of her sockets to get her Byakugan? The Root is ruthless and pragmatic, but we are not barbarians. Besides, I'm not interested in the Byakugan anyways. Her other talents are what I want for the Root.
Father, please, let me go. If I survive all that, the training, the Akatsuki, everything, if the Akatsuki is defeated and Naruto's safe, I promise to take my own life and let you reimplant the inheritance. I won't stand on your way. Just let me do one thing I wish to do, just this time.
If she dies, I promise to return her corpse with her eyes intact. I will also provide you the privilege of intel on other clans and villages as the Root collects it. All I ask for is one shinobi.
Fine, take her, but she'll regret it. She's worthless. For the first time, Hinata saw a full-fledged smile curling Danzo's lips. They did it. Hinata would finally be able to do something useful for once. She could at least try to protect Naruto.
In exchange for the intel, you will keep Hinata's new training and affiliation a secret, Hiyashi, from everyone, your clan, and especially the Hokage. She will be far more useful if no one knows about her true powers and missions. Hinata, you will request the Hokage to grant you a sabbatical, saying that as the heiress of the Hyuga clan, you will start to engage more on the clan's politics and act as an ambassador. In the eyes of the village, you will cease to be a shinobi for now. This facade will provide a reasonable excuse for your absence and missions.
Fine. It will be better for the clan anyway if she's not constantly failing on her missions.
Very well then,
Danzo said, standing up.
Come, Hinata. Your training begins now. now.
He used the transformation jutsu again and lowered the barrier surrounding the room. Hinata stood up, not looking at her father in the eye. As she was about to leave the room, Hiyashi interrupted her. This is all because of that boy, isn't it? That filthy Jinchuriki. She mustered all of her courage and finally looked him in the eye.
Does it matter?
No, but it figures that garbage would be attracted to garbage. A wave of primordial hatred flared through Hinata. She would kill her father. She would kill him now. Make him suffer. Danzo touched her shoulder, stopping her from moving.
Save your bloodlust for the true enemy.
She contained herself and stepped away. Danzo and Hinata left the Hyuga clan complex, and Danzo took her to a small building on the outskirts of the village. There, Danzo opened a secret passage down in the basement, using an elaborate reverse sealing jutsu. The passage took them to a place Hinata could never have imagined was under the Leaf Village. A massive underground facility with several tiers. There were rooms of all sorts, training grounds, intelligence stations, and much more hidden beyond other doors and passageways.
Your training will be harsh,
Danzo said, as they both walked through the facility.
You will devote at least 12 hours every day to it. You'll receive missions to be carried out when I deem you ready as well. They will be far harder than any mission you've ever been on. You are now loyal to me and to the Root Anbu. The Hokage's words hold no sway on you. Naturally, this will be further instilled during your training. There are several rituals you will undergo in the coming days. Rituals every Root Anbu member goes through, but first, I need your help with something.
My help?
Yes, we've recently captured a shinobi we suspect was acting as a spy in a city in the Land of Fire border. We believed he was eavesdropping on the shinobi facility the Leaf Village has there.
What do you mean by shinobi facility?
It's an outpost of leaf ninjas. Most cities in the Land of Fire have one. That so happened to be a large one with several sensitive documents and personnel. The man we captured is a shinobi from the Stone Village. He claims to have been only passing by the city, but we are suspicious. I want you to extract the truth from him. I don't want you to force him to confess to anything false, but to tell the undeniable truth. Do you understand?
Yes, I do, but why me? I've never even interrogated anyone.
You will see.
They reached a door which Danzo opened and told Hinata to get into the room. It was dark, with only a faint lamp giving off dim light. Hinata entered the room and walked forward. She only saw a chair, to which a man was tied on. Hinata couldn't see the man's face. He was facing away from the door. Danzo closed the door behind her, and Hinata's breath caught. He didn't follow her into the room. She was alone with her captive. Hinata slowly moved towards the man, breathing in deeply, trying to think about how to extract information. Why did she have to do this all of a sudden? Why so soon? Would she have to torture him? She couldn't do that. But she kept going towards him, not seeing his face. He was breathing in an erratic way. His bound hands shook. Someone entering the room provoked a visceral reaction of fear. Hinata finally reached the chair, seeing his face. Memory surfaced in Hinata's mind. The land of crystals. The fight against the stone ninjas. The man chained in front of her was one of those ninjas they fought in that mission over a year ago. The genjutsu user. His name was Namoko. There were clear signs of torture. The man had several cuts, missing nails and bruises. His mouth was gagged, and it took him a while to recognize Hinata. As soon as he did, his eyes opened wide, and a glimmer of hope shined on his face. Hinata ungagged him.
Thank you. Your name, it's Hinata, isn't it? Thank God. They called someone I knew.
What happened, Namoko?
I was captured by the Leaf Village. They're treating me as a spy, but they're wrong.
Why were you in the Land of Fire? And why so close to a shinobi outpost?
It was just a coincidence. You have to believe me, I was on a mission in the Land of Waterfalls, which took me to the border of the Land of Fire, but I'm no spy. I don't have any skills for it.
You're a genjutsu user.
Yes, but I never trained as a spy. I asked my captors to send for somebody that knew me from the Land of Crystals. We worked together, Hinata. We worked to rebuild that village. We were enemies, but that blonde kid, he united us in the end. He killed the captain, but he saved the city, and we became friends. Kurotsuchi speaks very highly of the kid. His name is Naruto, right? She thinks the leaf and the stone can become friends, and she really thinks that boy is the key.
Hinata remembered that mission, the first time she fought with Naruto, the first time Naruto acknowledged her, when Naruto killed to protect.
Namoko, I know the Anbu has treated you harshly, but I need to know the truth from you. The whole truth. That's why I was sent here. The Hokage is merciful. If you're truthful, we will reach an agreement with the Stone Village and your suffering will end. For that, you'll need to stop your deceit. Help me help you. Help me get you out of the situation. I also respect you. You are my friend. We work together. But you have to say everything you know. He looked at her, eyes watering. It took him almost a minute to speak. I'm a spy. I was sent to gather intel on the strength of the Leaf Ninjas in the border. We have several ninjas assigned to different cities on the border. The Tsuchikage always wants to know about a possible threat and invasions and incursions of other nations, especially the major ones. And with the history we have, the Leaf and the Stone. Who are these other spies? I don't know. I'm only giving the information pertinent to my assignment. I acted alone in that city. I managed to gather some intel about the ninjas in that outpost. One jonin was stationed there at all times with a variable number of 2 to 5 special jonins and 20 to 30 chunins. I also knew you didn't plan for any hostile attacks against other villages and against the Stone, at least in that region that I was stationed in. I was only there a week before I was discovered, but I didn't do anything bad. I didn't hurt anyone. That's all I know. I swear, I'm only a chunin. I don't know anything about the larger espionage operations that Tsuchikage has implemented. The door opened and Danzo stepped in. Good. You passed your first test, Hinata Hyuga. Hinata looked at him confused. We had already extracted every useful information from this boy, unbeknownst to him. We knew he was a spy. What? You were just using me? Namoko said, frustrated. I agreed to give you intel. Please let me go, or at least put me in a better cell. Hinata, you promised. Danzo stepped next to Hinata, looking at Namoko. His gaze was cold, but there was the hint of a smile. You did well, appealing to sympathy and desperation. That was a good contrast to the method we previously implemented on him. He cracked without difficulty. But now we can let him go, right? Or at least treat him a little better? I'm afraid not. No, please! You promised! Hinata, we work together! You saw how the Leaf and the Stone can cooperate! Namoko screamed, choking on his own tears. Lord Danzo, he's no threat to us. We don't have to keep on torturing him. I agree with you. We will torture him no longer. That would be wasteful. Danzo produced a kunai from his sleeve. Holding it by the blade, he offered the weapon to Hinata. Kill him. Hinata felt a frigid embrace. This couldn't be happening. She couldn't kill a defenseless person. I can't. His prisoner is not armed. He's not dangerous. And we promised. No, please. I beg you, Hinata, please. I have a family. I just had a daughter. She's 6 months old. Her hands shook uncontrollably. Namoko's face of desperation made her wish to be invisible again. She didn't want to do that. And even though she wanted to cry more than anything, as usual, no tears escaped her eyes. It's not right. Maybe we can use him to trade information or prisoners with the Stone Village. Killing him would be wrong. Emotion is weakness. Compassion is weakness. Glory is weakness. Relinquish your soul. Hinata, please. I'll do anything. Do you wish to save Naruto or not? Do it. Hinata's hands stopped shaking. As the image of a happy, smiling Naruto formed in her mind's eye, she ignored Namoko's desperate screams and shoved the kunai into his left eye. The defenseless stone ninja made an abrupt squeak, realizing what just happened, and his head fell limp. Her first kill had been easier than killing a fly, but he was a human who had dreams, aspirations, a family, and was even somewhat of a friend to her. Strangely, Hinata felt no shock. She would probably not sleep for weeks, but no shaking or paralysis overtook her. Welcome to the Root Anbu. They said your first kill was the most impactful, and that eventually you would grow numb to the slaughter. They were right. Hinata had grown numb to killing. She didn't even acknowledge it anymore. But her most impactful kill hadn't been her first, but her last. The kill that saved Naruto's life. Hinata killed to protect, just like Naruto had done it in the Land of Crystals. She knew her soul was forfeit. She would never go to the same place Naruto would in the afterlife, but that didn't matter. Someone had to do it. And better her than Naruto himself. His life and soul were preserved, and that was what mattered. And with confidence, Hinata knew that she would have done everything all over again.
Watch part 35 right here. Don't forget to like the video so we can reach the like goal, especially if you reached this far, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Comment below what was your favorite part of this rewrite, and thank you so much for watching.